Have you ever seen someone you love and wished you hadn't? Because the moment I saw my son again, everything I believed for 7 months shattered in a single breath. It was late, the kind of evening where the sky turns that dull gray blue and the streetlights flicker like they're too tired to stay on. I had just finished a double shift, grease still clinging to my clothes, my feet aching, my head somewhere far away. I almost didn't notice him. He was sitting on the curb, small, still, too still. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. At first, he was just another kid in the blur of the city. Hood pulled up, knees tucked in, a piece of cardboard resting against his legs. People passed him like he wasn't even there. Then the wind shifted, and I saw his face. Everything in me stopped. Leo! The name barely left my mouth. It came out like a broken whisper, like something fragile that could disappear if I said it too loud. He looked up, slowly, and I swear, in that second, my heart didn't recognize him. He was thinner, his cheeks hollow, dirt smudged across his skin like it had been there for days, maybe weeks. His hair, once soft and always messy in that playful way, hung limp and uneven. But it was his eyes. They didn't light up. Not when he saw me. Not when I said his name again. Louder this time. Leo, it's me. It's Mom. He stared at me like I was a stranger who had just interrupted something important. Then he said something I still hear every time I close my eyes. You weren't supposed to find me. What does that even mean? What kind of 4-year-old says that? My legs moved before my brain could catch up. I rushed toward him, dropping my bag, reaching out, but he flinched. Flinched. From me. That's when something cold settled in my chest. Something sharp. Something wrong. And in that moment, I realized something I wasn't ready to face. He hadn't been taken. He had left. 7 months earlier, everything still made sense. Or at least, I thought it did. My name is Maya Rivera. I was 18 years old, working 2 jobs and failing, maybe, but trying to be everything my son needed. I had Leo when I was 14. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Too young, too reckless, too much responsibility for someone who still had homework and curfews. But none of that mattered the first time I held him. Because from that moment on, my life stopped being mine. It became his. Every decision, every sacrifice, every sleepless night. It was all for Leo. His dad? Gone before Leo could even say his name. So it was just us. Always just us. And that morning, the day everything fell apart, it started like any other. Quiet, too quiet, maybe, but I didn't notice it then. Leo sat at the table, pushing his cereal around instead of eating it. You're gonna be late, I told him, forcing a smile as I tied my hair back. He didn't answer, just looked at me. Not sad, not upset, just thinking. Hey, I said, crouching down in front of him. What's going on in that head, huh? He tilted his head slightly and asked something that didn't make sense at the time. Mom, if I went somewhere else, would you still find me? I laughed, actually laughed. Of course I would, I said. I'd always find you. He nodded slowly, like he was memorizing the answer, like it mattered more than I understood. I grabbed my jacket, checked the time, already running late between shifts. I'll be back soon, okay? Mrs. Klein's upstairs if you need anything. He didn't argue, didn't cling to me like he usually did, didn't ask me to stay. He just said, okay. And that was the last normal moment I ever had with my son. When I came back, the door was slightly open, not wide, just enough to feel wrong. Leo? I called out. No answer. I stepped inside. The apartment was silent, too silent. His shoes, still by the door, his favorite toy, right where he left it, his little backpack, hanging untouched. And on the table, the phone I always let him play with. Still there, means still charging. I felt it instantly, that drop in your stomach, that sick, sinking feeling that something isn't just wrong. It's gone. Leo? Louder this time. Nothing. No footsteps, no giggle, no voice calling back, just silence. And in that silence, a question began to form. If he didn't take his shoes, If he didn't take his things? If he didn't even take the one thing he never let go of? Then how did he leave? And more importantly, why? What if the truth was right in front of you, but you refused to see it? Because that's exactly where I was. Standing in a police station, hands shaking, staring at a man who was about to say something that didn't just sound wrong. It felt impossible. Kids don't just disappear, Detective Harris said, his voice calm, almost too calm. Not like this. I sat across from him, I gripping the edge of the table like it was the only thing keeping me upright. He's 4, I snapped. He didn't just leave. Someone took him. That had to be the answer. It made sense. It had to. Because the alternative. I couldn't even let myself think about it. Detective Harris didn't argue. He just slid a photo across the table. A still image from the building's security camera. The front entrance. Empty. No one came in, he said. No one left carrying a child. My chest tightened. That doesn't mean anything, I said quickly. Maybe they used the back, maybe there is no back exit. Silence. Heavy. Suffocating. I shook my head, pushing the thought away before it could settle. No, I whispered. No, that's not possible. But then he leaned forward slightly, his voice quieter now. Then we need to consider something else. I didn't want to hear it. I already knew what he was going to say. Your son may have left on his own. The words landed like a punch I didn't see coming. I stood up so fast my chair scraped loudly across the floor. He's 4, I repeated, louder now. He doesn't even cross the street by himself. Which means, Harris said carefully, he believed he was going somewhere safe. Safe. That word stuck. Because it implied something I wasn't ready to face. That wherever he went, he trusted it more than staying with me. The next few days blurred together. Missing posters, phone calls, people asking the same questions over and over again. What was he wearing? Did he seem upset? Was anything different? Different. Everything felt different now. And even the apartment didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a crime scene, like every object was hiding something I missed. And then there was Mrs. Klein. She showed up constantly. Too constantly. Oh, Maya, you must eat something, she'd say, placing food I never touched on the table. I can help talk to the police, she insisted. I saw him just the day before. Such a sweet boy. That last part always came with a pause. A hesitation, like she was choosing her words too carefully. At first, I thought she was just being kind. Now? I wasn't so sure. One afternoon, as she hovered near the doorway, I asked her directly, "Did you see anything that day?" She blinked, too quickly. "No, dear, I told you. I didn't see him leave. Didn't see him leave. Not didn't see him. Didn't see him leave." And the wording sat wrong in my head. "You said he liked going downstairs once," I added, watching her closely. Her smile flickered. "Oh, just playing around. Kids wander, you know." Downstairs. What did that even mean? There was nothing downstairs except storage units. Cold, dark, locked spaces no kid would choose to be in, right? That night, I couldn't sleep. Again. The silence pressed in too hard, so I started looking, really looking, through everything. Drawers, cabinets, corners I hadn't checked before. I told myself I was just making sure. But deep down, I think I was searching for something I didn't want to find. And then, under his bed, something crumpled, small, hidden. My fingers trembled as I pulled it out. A piece of paper, folded unevenly, like it had been shoved there in a hurry. Oh, I opened it slowly. And when I saw what was inside, my stomach dropped. A drawing. Stick figures. Simple, childlike, but clear enough. One figure labeled in shaky handwriting. Me. Another one beside it. New mom. I froze. My mind tried to make sense of it, tried to twist it into something harmless. A game, a story, imagination. But then I noticed something else. There was a third figure, standing a little further away, smaller, alone, and above it, a single word. Maya. Not mom. Not Mama, just Maya. I stared at that drawing for a long time. Too long. Because somewhere deep inside, a thought was starting to take shape. One I didn't want. One I couldn't accept. But one that wouldn't go away. What if my son didn't just leave? What if he was leaving me? What kind of place makes a child believe it's better than home? That question wouldn't leave me alone. It echoed in everything. The silence, the empty apartment, even in the way people looked at me now, like they were trying to figure out what kind of mother loses her child without a sound. But I wasn't thinking about them. I was thinking about one word. Downstairs. Mrs. Klein had said it so casually, like it meant nothing. But now, it felt like the only thing that mattered. The building always felt different at night, quieter, colder. Every sound stretched too far. The hum of old lights, the distant creak of pipes, the faint buzz of something electrical buried in the walls. I stood at the top of the basement stairs, staring down into the dim hallway below. Storage units. That's all it was supposed to be. Metal doors, my concrete floors, dust and forgotten things. So why did it feel like I was about to step into something I wasn't meant to see? I swallowed hard and went down anyway. Each step echoed louder than it should have. Step, step, step. At the bottom, the air felt heavier, thicker. The overhead lights flickered, casting uneven shadows that made the narrow hallway seem longer than it was. I walked slowly, eyes scanning each unit. Closed, locked, closed, locked. Then, one door, slightly open, just enough. My breath caught. Hello? I called out, my voice smaller than I expected. No answer, of course not. Still, I stepped closer. The door creaked as I pushed it open, and what I saw inside didn't make sense. Not at first. It wasn't a storage unit, not really. It was something else. When there was a blanket spread across the floor, a small pile of snacks, empty wrappers mixed with unopened ones, a plastic bottle of water, and taped to the wall. Drawings, dozens of them. Messy, colorful, familiar. My heart started pounding. I stepped closer. No, 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 no. I recognized them. They were Leo's. I knew the way he drew people. Round heads, tiny arms, uneven smiles. They were everywhere, on every surface. Like he had been here. A lot. Not once, not twice. But enough to make this place feel like his. My stomach twisted. This wasn't random. This wasn't an accident. This was planned. Looking for something? I spun around so fast I nearly slipped. Mrs. Klein stood in the doorway. I hadn't even heard her come down. How long have you been there? I demanded, my voice sharp, shaking. And she didn't answer right away. Her eyes moved slowly around the room, then back to me. I told you he liked it down here, she said quietly. My chest tightened. You knew about this? Her lips pressed together. I thought it was harmless, she said. Just a place to play. A place to play? I repeated, my voice rising. With who? That's when something in her expression shifted. Not guilt, not exactly. Something heavier. He wasn't alone, she said. The words hit harder than anything else so far. Who? I asked immediately. She hesitated, and in that hesitation I felt it again. That same cold, creeping certainty. You're not going to like the answer. There was someone he talked to, she finally admitted. A man. My pulse spiked. What man? He worked here, maintenance, quiet, kept to himself. She paused. His name was Eli. Eli. The name meant nothing, but the feeling, immediate dread. What do you mean he talked to him? I pressed. How long? I don't know exactly, she said. But Leo seemed comfortable, happy even. Happy, that word again. Like it didn't belong, like it didn't fit into the version of reality I was holding on to. Why didn't you tell me? I demanded. Her voice dropped. Because you were never here. The sentence hung in the air between us, sharp, unavoidable. I stepped back slightly, like it had physically pushed me. That's not, I started, but the words didn't come out right, because part of me knew. There was something true in it. The police moved fast after that. Too fast. Within hours, they had a name, a face, a timeline. Eli had quit his job the same week Leo disappeared. No notice, no explanation, just gone. And then they found something else. A camera, not in the building, at a bus station, blurry footage, grainy, but clear enough. A small figure, holding someone's hand. Leo. My heart nearly stopped. There, the officer said, pointing. I leaned closer, trying to see the person beside him, but the frame cut them off. Just an arm, a shadow, someone tall, someone leaving with my son, not dragging him, not forcing him, just walking together. I felt the room spin, because in that moment, the last piece of denial I had left collapsed. He wasn't taken. He didn't fight. He didn't cry. He didn't run. He walked away, willingly. But the question that replaced it was worse. What did that man say to my son? To make him choose a stranger over me? What would you do if your child looked at you like you were the stranger? Because that's the moment everything inside me started to break. I stood there on the sidewalk, the noise of the city fading into something distant and hollow, like I was underwater. Cars passed, people walked by, someone laughed across the street. None of it felt real. Only him, only Leo. Come here, I said softly, forcing my voice to stay steady as I took another step closer. It's okay, you're safe now. Safe. The word felt fragile the second it left my mouth, because Leo didn't move, didn't run to me, didn't smile. He stepped back, just one step, but it was enough. Enough to tell me everything had changed. Leo, my voice cracked this time. It's me, Mom. He shook his head slightly. Not angry, not scared, just certain. No, he said quietly. And then he said my name. Maya. It hit harder than anything else. Not Mom, not even hesitation, just Maya. Like that's all I was now, something distant, replaceable. My chest tightened so sharply I had to fight to breathe. Why are you calling me that? I whispered. He didn't answer right away. His eyes drifted past me, across the street. And that's when I felt it. That instinct. That pull. I turned slowly. And there he was, leaning against a pole like he had nowhere else to be. Watching. Eli. He looked normal. That was the worst part. No mask, no panic, no attempt to run, just a man standing there like this moment had already played out in his head 100 times, like he knew exactly how it would go. You, I said, my voice sharp now, cutting through everything else. You took him. It wasn't a question. It couldn't be. But Eli didn't react the way I expected. Didn't deny it, didn't argue. He just looked at Leo, and Leo stepped in front of him, protectively. My stomach dropped. He didn't take me, Leo said. The words came out calm. Too calm. I asked him to. Everything inside me went still. What? I whispered. I wanted to go, he continued, like he was explaining something simple. He didn't make me. That didn't make sense. It couldn't. You're 4, I said, shaking my head. You don't just decide to leave? I did. His voice wasn't loud, but it was firm, and that's what made it worse. Behind him, Eli finally spoke. I didn't kidnap him, he said quietly. He kept coming down to the basement, talking. I didn't stop it. Didn't stop it? I snapped, on my anger finally breaking through. You let a child, my child, believe he should leave his home with you? Eli didn't answer right away, because he didn't have to. Leo did it for him. He listens, Leo said. 2 words. That's all it took. That's all it took to slice straight through me. I listened too, I said quickly, stepping closer. I'm your mom, Leo. I've always been here. He looked at me then, really looked. And for a second, just a second, I thought I saw something soften. But then he said it. The thing that would echo longer than anything else. You're not there, he said. Silence. You're always gone. The world didn't stop, but I did, because in that moment, every late shift, every missed bedtime, every I'll be back soon, came crashing down all at once. I was working, I said, my voice barely holding together. For you. For us. I know, he said, and somehow that made it worse, because there was no anger in his voice, no accusation, just truth. I just didn't want to be alone anymore. Somewhere in the distance, I heard sirens, faint at first, then louder. People were starting to notice. A small crowd forming, whispers spreading, phones coming out. The moment was slipping, breaking. Leo, I said, dropping to my knees now, not caring who was watching. Please, come home, he hesitated. For the first time, really hesitated. His eyes moved between me and Eli, between what he knew and what he believed. The sirens got closer, too close. Everything was about to change. And I realized something terrifying. This wasn't just about finding him anymore. It was about whether he would choose to come back. Why did you leave me? The question came out before I could stop it, raw, unfiltered. And Leo's answer, it didn't come right away. But when it didn't just hurt. It shattered everything. Because, he said slowly, you were never really there. What do? When the truth isn't what you feared, it's worse. The sirens got louder, closer, until they swallowed everything. People had already pulled out their phones. A small circle had formed around us. Strangers watching the worst moment of my life like it was something to scroll past later. But I couldn't move. I couldn't even look away from him. From my son. Standing there, thin and quiet, like he had already lived through something I didn't understand. I didn't leave because I hate you, Leo said softly. And that, somehow, made it harder to breathe. I know, I whispered. And I did know. That was the problem. The police arrived fast. Too fast. 2 officers stepped in, separating the space between me and Eli without even asking. Sir, we need you to step over here, one of them said firmly, already guiding Eli away. Eli didn't resist, didn't argue, he just nodded once, and let himself be taken, like he knew this part was coming, like he had accepted it a long time ago. Leo watched him go, not panicking, not crying, just watching. That quiet, distant look again. Leo, another officer said gently, kneeling in front of him. Do you know who this is? He nodded. My mom. The word landed differently this time, softer, but still uncertain. The officer glanced at me briefly before speaking again. Were you taken by this man? Leo shook his head. No. Did he make you leave your home? No. The officer paused. Then why did you go with him? Leo looked down at his hands and said the same thing that had already torn through me once. Because I didn't want to be alone. That was the truth. Not kidnapping, not force, not some hidden dramatic crime. Just something quieter, something easier to miss. Eli hadn't stolen my son. He had allowed him to leave, and that was enough. The investigation moved quickly after that. Once everything was laid out, once Leo's statements matched the timeline, they had what they needed. Eli was charged with child endangerment and unlawful custodial interference. Not because he forced Leo to go, but because he didn't stop him. And because he let a 4-year-old believe he had somewhere better to be, and walked him right out of his life, and then failed to take care of him after. That part became clear fast. Leo hadn't been living in some safe, secret place. There was no new home, no stability, no plan. At first, Eli had tried. Cheap motels, fast food, keeping him close, but money ran out, and reality caught up. They moved around, slept in places they shouldn't have, and eventually, Leo ended up spending hours alone on the streets while Eli searched for ways to get by. That's how I found him. Not because he came back, but because he had nowhere left to go. But the consequences didn't stop with Eli. They never do. Because the truth is, when something like this happens, everyone gets pulled into it, including me. A few days later, I sat in another room, another table. But this time, it wasn't the police. It was Child Protective Services, and the questions felt familiar. Too familiar. How often were you working? Who was supervising Leo during your shifts? Were there extended periods where he was alone? Each question chipped away at something I had been holding on to. Not because I didn't have answers, but because none of them sounded good out loud. I was doing what I had to, I said, my voice tighter than I wanted it to be. And it was true. It was. But truth doesn't always protect you from consequences. In the end, they didn't take him away, but they didn't just hand everything back either. There were conditions: mandatory parenting classes, regular home check-ins, in a temporary monitored arrangement, just until they were sure Leo felt stable again. It wasn't punishment, but it didn't feel far from it. And Leo? He came home, but not the way I imagined, for 7 months. There was no running into my arms, no crying, no moment where everything snapped back into place. Just quiet adjustment. He slept in his bed again, ate at the same table, watched the same cartoons. But something had shifted, somewhere deep, and I could feel it in everything. The way he hesitated before calling me Mom, the way he watched me leave the room, like he was measuring something, timing something, waiting to see if I'd disappear again. So I changed things. Not all at once, not perfectly, but deliberately. I cut my hours, lost money, struggled more than before, but I was there. In the mornings, at night, in the small, quiet moments that used to slip through my fingers, and slowly, something started to change. 3 months later, the apartment felt different. Still small, still worn, but warmer. Lived in. There were drawings on the fridge now, new ones. And this time, they all had 2 figures standing side by side, not far apart, not separated. Together. One night, I sat on the edge of Leo's bed as he pulled the blanket up to his chin. He looked at me for a moment, studying, the way he had before. But this time, there was something softer in it. "Are you working tomorrow?" he asked. A simple question, but not really. I shook my head. No. A pause. Then, "You'll be here when I wake up?" I didn't answer right away. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because I understood what he was really asking. And this time, I made sure my answer meant something. "Yes," I said quietly. "I'll be here." He nodded, slowly, like he believed me, or at least, like he was starting to. He turned over, closing his eyes. And within minutes, he was asleep. I didn't leave. I stayed sitting there, in the dim light, listening to his breathing. Steady, safe. Here. Because I finally understood something I hadn't before. Losing him wasn't the moment he disappeared. It was everything that happened before that. All the small absences, all the moments I thought didn't matter. They added up, quietly. Until one day, he believed he had to go somewhere else to be seen. But now I was here, not perfect, not fixed, but present. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough. I reached out, gently brushing his hair away from his face. He didn't wake, didn't pull away, just breathed. Peacefully. And I made a decision right there. Not something dramatic, not something loud, just something steady, something real. I wasn't going to let him feel alone again, not in the ways that mattered, not in the ways that break things quietly. Because this time, when he wakes up, I'll be there,